Hello, everybody, and welcome to Starting Small Music. I'm Justin McCormick, and you're about to hear a conversation with an artist, musician, and music industry professional on their journey and where they got to where they are today. At Starting Small, we like to take you down a journey uncovering the untold stories of your favorite songs and artists. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Starting Small Music Podcast. Today we have artist and songwriter Rocky Block. Rocky, how you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing real good. So,
Good.
Getting into your story, you grew up in Nashville. What was your childhood like?
I grew up in a house full of music here in town. Yeah. Had a brother. My little brother obviously was around for most of it. My parents were great, and my childhood was fine, man. I mean, grew up. It was a lot of music, and my dad was in the business, so that was the start of it all, probably.
For sure. Hearing a lot of music around the house, what is like the first like record or artist you kind of remember like really listening to and resonating with?
Actually pretty vividly. It was I was doing yard work with my dad. I was probably like 5, because I think it came out in 2002. So yeah, my dad would get sent a bunch of CDs every week, because he had his radio show, and back in the day, like, people would have to send you CDs to like get on, like, that's how it was done,
Right.
And there was this one CD that like he had gotten sent, or I don't know if it came in just a package of it was plenty of random stuff that wasn't just country, which was what he was playing on the radio. But it was this John Cleary record called John Cleary and the Absolute Monster Gentleman.
Oh, cool.
It's like New Orleans cat, piano player, singer guy. I really gravitated towards that stuff when I was younger. I think it was more about the music for me back then, like the feeling of like the music and the theory and the lyric and the story of the song is kind of, that wasn't what I was listening for so much at the time, and that's like the stuff I fell in love with.
Totally. Now, growing up in a family, like you said, with your dad working in the business, were you automatically put into in lessons to learn an instrument growing up, or did they let you decide that you wanted to get into music?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to be like my dad. My dad did music, so like they didn't have any problems like getting me to want to do it or anything like that. I think they would have let me not. They would have let me be into it. Like, they were just cool with whatever. But no, there was a point when I was probably 13 or so when I went to my pops and I was just like, yo, like, I want to kind of do this. Like, what are my options here? And like, how do I navigate that? And then I'm really grateful that that's a question I was able to ask, that was an option for me then.
Totally. So I saw online that you play guitar, bass, and piano. What was the first instrument that you picked up?
Drums, but then Grady was way better than I was, so I stopped playing drums because my dad was a drummer. So that was the first thing I played. Truly, I started playing everything else because I was like, well, Grady's younger than me and he's already as good as I am at drums. I better do everything else instead of that, because he'd get all the gigs instead of me, and that would be terrible for me. So
it's funny because up until doing the research for this, I thought that Grady was the younger one. For some reason, he looks younger than you. I was surprised.
Grady is the younger one.
Oh, he is? Okay, I thought that you. Okay, yeah, that makes sense then.
There may be a misleading something online of me calling him Big Bro or something that may have thrown you off there, but.
Yeah, maybe that was it. So you mentioned, your dad, Billy Block, huge country radio personality. What was it like growing up with someone like working in the industry? And do you remember having like any memories of maybe any big people in the industry coming like just around your house growing up, or kind of making some early relationships early on?
Yeah, it was a really cool dynamic around the house, because I've like basically 2 childhood, not at the same time, but like, there was one that I was in until a certain age, and then another I was in the rest of my childhood. And in both houses, the basement was like a rehearsal studio with like a full PA, amps, like drums. It's like, it's like a mini room at SIR or any other like rehearsal studio, and except not treated at all. So everything was just bouncing off the walls left and right. But yeah, through that, like he would have everyone that played his show come through and rehearse at his house like the night before. and then because there was a house band oftentimes. So just kind of through that, there were like regulars, like the guys in the house band that would be there every week at rehearsal, and then there were the artists that were playing that would come through, whenever they were on. So it was like a motley crew of like this whole group of people that ended up ascending together, which is what I hope to do with all my buddies.
Totally. Now, did you pick up anything cool from like just being around stuff like that? Like, were you able to have conversations with those musicians like while you were learning, like trying to pick
Uh,
things up from them?
yeah, I like picking brains. So even then, yeah, no, that's how I learned to play music. Really, I like it was mostly I had to take lessons until I knew like enough of what I was doing, and then most of the like stuff that I still use are all like, how did you do that? Like I would just sit down there and like the bass player would do something, and I'd like afterwards I'd be like, how did you do that? Or like, like there was like a chord, that I couldn't conceptualize. Like I couldn't hear how it fit into and I'd be like, what is that? Why does that work? How's that? So like, yeah, getting to ask those kind of like how does this like, for me it's a lot of it was theoretical, right? Like, but I don't know. Yes, to answer your question, it was nice to have those resources around to just like and ask questions, and that's a lot of how I learned.
Totally. So you said you were around 13 when you kind of had the conversation with your dad that you wanted to go into music. Is that around the time that you started playing around town in Nashville?
We actually had a family band when I was younger than that. So
Really?
we were playing around town with the Block Family Band. It was my parents and Grady and I, and actually a family friend of ours who wasn't in our family for part of it. But man, we like ruined people's vacations down in the Bahamas this one time. Like my dad got us this gig down there. I was probably 10. My brother's 8 playing drums. My dad was playing bass. He was a drummer. Didn't know how to play bass. My mom's like the only like solid one with Grady. Anyways, we would get like comments on Facebook back in the day, like, you ruined my day at the pool in the Bahamas, like, because you were
Oh
so
no.
bad. And it's just like, yeah, well, so no, we were doing it before then, but that's when I really started like seeking guidance, I think. And like rather than like doing it for fun and because it was like something I like to do, that's when it became a little more like, how do I strategically um work through the ranks at this rather than just do it.
Totally. Now, kind of going back a little bit, since you grew up in Nashville, is there anyone you went to school with that is also like doing country music right now?
Yeah, there's a lot of people I grew up with, man, and I'm like I'm gonna forget some of them, but like my buddy Hank Compton, who I didn't go to school with, but we were in bands together like early. He's doing stuff here. He's sick. God, man, there's in country specifically, I'm trying to think. There's a guy I went to high school with, this guy Bren Joy, who was here at Big Loud for some time, who's like a dope like R&B soul pop artist, and we worked together a good bit. Am I forgetting someone in particular? Is there anyone that I went to school with that like is obvious and right in front of me that I like am not thinking of that is in country?
Hmm.
Uh Man, that's I wish I was better at that, but yeah, I mean, there's people I run into all the time that I not necessarily maybe that I went to high school with, but that I was friends with in high school that are doing like really sick stuff.
I think it's cool that you ended up at Big Loud too, because it seems like a lot of their roster was Nashville natives, like with Ernest and other people too.
Yeah, and I didn't know what's funny about Big Loud in particular is it's the highest concentration of locals I've met anywhere, but I didn't know any of them growing up. And we
Really?
were all around each other. We were all in South Nashville in particular, like between like certain like it was all like this one, but I guess Ernest was just old enough for me to probably like not known him. Mike and JB were just far enough out in like Brentwood to where like I didn't really know them, like Franklin area, Nolansville, and then Grady and I were kind of in our pocket. But man, it's crazy that you're right. There's a lot of natives here at Big Loud, and I kind of love that. I love
Totally.
that. It's a lot of fun. But no, we didn't know each other growing up.
So in 2017, you released your first EP, Lover, which I'm a huge fan of. I love the soulful vocals. It kind of just takes me right back to like the 70s when I listen to it, I feel. What was the creative process going into making that record?
Well, first off, it's cool for me that like you know about that record, and like I appreciate that. Like it's not really a huge part of my life anymore, although I am still proud of it and whatnot. You know, it's nothing to do with that. But man, it was a fun time making that, because that's like the stuff I like love, like grew up loving. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to be. That's who I wanted to. And it sounds very much like what I was trying to emulate, in a way, I guess. But like it was still a lot of fun. So essentially this guy that I'm like a massive fan of and had been before I knew him, named Casey Wasner, produced it and helped me with the whole thing. And he's just a legend in his own right. Like Google, you know, I'm just saying, like he's done this really cool thing. And he made this record in 2013 that he played everything on and like wrote and sang, and produced, that I was like just a big fan of. And then I was introduced to him and played him some of those songs, and he was like, man, like I would love to help you do this. Like I'll do it. I'll just do it, you know? And you know, like it was really the only reason I got the opportunity to make a record like that, which did ultimately help, you know, get me my first publishing deal like here in town. And like, I'm really grateful for it, man. Like I literally like wouldn't have been able to, I mean, I would have, but just not like that. You know what I mean? So,
Right. So
I'm grateful for that.
When you went in to make that record, what was the motive behind it? Was it, I want to write these songs to show off my songwriting ability, to maybe get a publishing deal? Were you pursuing an artist career at that time?
I wanted to be an artist at the time. I'd been playing shows around. I started like kind of playing like punk shows, but like with that music, because a lot of it was like the only gigs I could get. And like all my, like a lot of my boys were playing punk shows, and I was just like, can I come play? And like, you know, enough people would come to where it would make sense for them to let me play, like eventually, which was sick. But like, yeah, so I started in like a lot of houses and like little punk venues, and then I never really made it further out of that. But you know, we ended up getting to make a fun little record. But the intention was to make, like, that's just what I wanted to sound like. That's what I wanted to be, and I wanted to sing those songs and go play them and tour them. And like, I'm glad I'm glad that's not my reality now. But yeah, that was the intention.
Do you still ever find yourself writing for that genre, maybe pitching to people that are still doing that type of music, or do you kind of focus on the country and like hip hop crossovers?
Truthfully, what's more, I guess what's more fulfilling for me now is trying to find ways to fit that in to what I do now, rather than just still do it.
Totally.
Because the reality is like, unless there's like a pretty marketable like radio for a type of music, as just a songwriter now, there are things that physically don't make sense for me to do unless it's purely for passion. And like, I don't do much passion project. I don't do many passion projects.
I got you.
Which maybe is a fault of mine, but yeah, so no, what's really fun for me these days is trying to let that, like, use that and have it influence what I do on a day-to-day basis now. That's what's most fun for me with it.
Totally. And I bet that's what makes you like stick out in the writing room, is everyone bringing in their own influences like that.
Sure. And I try to use it to my advantage. And sometimes I'm sure it's to my disadvantage, but sometimes it is. So, you know, but that's where it comes into play for me now, is just finding the kind of country that, like, because there's all this like old, sorry, I don't mean to, there's all this old country that kind of sounds like that. And like, you know, it's just finding it and trying to, you know, figure out where it fits in and where the cliches are that's the puzzle for me now. That's fun.
And it's cool too, because I think that you're totally right that a lot of old country really does fit that. Like if you listen to like Ronnie Millsap, Glenn Campbell, all that old stuff is exactly what you're talking about, that vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. You see it a lot in the 70s and a lot in the 90s as well. Like a lot of the Vince Gill stuff is like pretty that, like, not in the same, maybe like, yeah, well, there's a lot of it. It's really cool and it's fun. And for me, I wasn't a huge country fan until the last 4 years. So it's been fun for me to really get to discover a lot rather than revisit a lot.
Totally. Now, what did the process of you getting your first publishing deal look like?
Man, my first publishing deal was with a writer in town named Bob DiPiero, who's a legend and a sweetheart. And we had met back in 2017, started writing together. And by like 2018, he offered me a deal for a couple years just to see, just because I was doing my artist stuff still. I wasn't even writing country stuff. So it was kind of like, hey, like, this is just to kind of help you get along and whatnot. And in that deal is when I had written enough country songs to be like, wow, the songs that come easiest to me writing are these, and the songs that are having any sort of action on them are these. Like I kind of, but the path to it was just, I met Bob, showed him the stuff that I was doing, that the Lover record, and you know, had him come out to a couple shows, and we ended up writing songs together and really just clicking as humans as well. And I'm really grateful for the chance he took on me, you know?
Heck yeah. Now, when did that transition, when did you end up leaving there and going to Big Loud?
So that would have been like peak COVID. It was an interesting time because my deal with Bob was ending, I think in that summer of 2020. And yeah, everything just went crazy in March, right? Because that's when everything shut down and everything was very uncertain. And but yeah, so I ended up signing over here in the summer of 2020, and I kind of like started trying to write as many songs as I could while everyone else, you know, couldn't write as many songs. And I just wanted to. I was just very grateful to, you know, have the opportunity. But yeah, it was the middle of the summer 2020, I think.
So not long after you got signed to Big Loud in 2020, you actually had your first #1 at Canadian country radio with Dean Brody with your song "Can't Help Myself," which you actually wrote with the guys from Florida Georgia Line. What do you remember about that day writing, and how much did it mean to you to have your first #1?
Yeah, that was a really cool moment, and that was part of, like, that was back when I was with Bob. That happened. So they sent me out on the Tree Vibes bus. And we were out there on the road, and it was me and Blake Redfern and the Jason Fable and the guys, and there were like 5 of us, and we were just sitting there, and Jason played that stomp clap thing, and I think it was BK who was like slumped on the couch next to me, just like sitting there. And he just went, you know, I like cold beer, yes I do. I like cold beer, how about you? And the rest was fun after that. But it was really cool. My buddy Griffin Palmer actually ended up showing it to the Rec Laws. And they were like, yo, can we do this? And it was, you know, it had freed up. And we were like, yeah, please, thank you. And then they got Dean on it and ended up doing it together, and that was a really fun moment for me, man. Yeah, no, it was really cool.
Totally. Now, getting into probably one of your biggest releases so far, you're a co-writer on Morgan Wallen and Lil Durk's Broadway Girls. Can you take me through like the day that you remember? What do you remember about the day writing that song?
Man, well, there were a few sessions on that. So it wasn't all the same session, but the first day was it was a Friday, and we all went to Losers beforehand at probably like 1, and then by like 2 or 2:30 went over to the Hutton where Charlie was working, and there were like 6 of us in there, and you know, it happened the way it happened, but it was fun to be a part of and see, you know, it was great. It was really cool. It was fun.
Did you write that with Morgan in mind, or were you just writing it to write it at that point?
I think we knew when we got on it that it would be a pretty cool thing for him to do. I think that was like, you could look around the room and just go, you know, this is probably going to be really cool, you know? And then, yeah, there was another session that Morgan came on and really did his thing to it and really whatever. And then, yeah, it was great. It was great. And then Dirk just did his thing. I don't know how. I stay out of it, man. Like, you know, I do what that's out of my control. So I just try to write, be there and do what I can do to help the song, and then the rest of it is, you know.
Totally. Now, I'm sure you can agree with this too. I mean, country is my favorite, but I mean, also I love rap, like Little Durk, King Von, just because the storytelling that they have in their songs. How did you react when you found out that Little Durk was going to be on the song, and you actually have a cut on a Little Durk record now too?
No, it's it was really cool, man. And the only man, it was fun because I think I'm like, it's funny. I think that the stuff I listened to the least growing up is country and rap, and I think what I listen to the most by a long shot now is country and rap, right? And I think that it's the storytelling, it's the lyric on both ends, and then like for me at least, and like I think it's like it's very similar in the way that like it's an expression of culture, right? Like it's like they're like the two main parts of like mainstream types of music that like are like specific to like, and like even different artists within the genres have their cultures that it's specific to, like, and those fans, and like you can see those, you know what I mean? Like
Totally.
like, and I just think like, no, I just think that it's beautiful, like the way that that came about, and it was dope. I'm a Dirk fan. Like he's, like I got to meet him at the video shoot and hang out with them for a while. Like they just had me over I just got to hang out, but like that was crazy. You know what I mean? Like, and he was a really sweet guy, and like it was all like really, it was all really cool just to get to be around for.
Yeah, that's what I was going to lead into next, is that you have a cameo in the music video. What was it like to, I mean, sure, you growing up in Nashville, going down to Broadway. What was it like to go down there, like with Broadway shut down literally just for you guys to shoot this music video?
Man, so I didn't stick around for that part. I just I pulled up. It was they really just, the part I was at, they had just there's a back entrance or something now, Dean's, and then you just go up to the third floor, and they had that like roped off or like blocked off. Just the third floor was like, wherever, whatever floor that was, I don't know. But yeah, that I think they did later that night, so it was like easier to close down. I think that might have been at like 3 or 4 a.m.
Oh, wow. So you've had so many singles released kind of in the past year or so with your career taking off, like Chris Lane, Ashley Cook. Do you have a song that you're most proud of that has landed on an artist record?
Oh man, that's a great question. I'm not sure if there's like one that I'd like necessarily be most proud of, but I'm really proud of I'm really proud of the work that I did on like the Seaforth stuff with Good Beer, and then there's going to be more stuff that comes out. I'm such a fan of theirs, and they're good friends of mine, and I'm really proud of the work we did on the stuff that's that Good Beer song, but a lot of the stuff coming too. That's just the first thing that comes to mind, but it's honestly like every time that I write a song that someone ends up like wanting to do, like that's just like sick, man. Like that's so cool. That's it's my job, but it's like also like why I love my job. So for me, it's about getting it out there, and then like we've seen in the last couple of years, like songs can have lives whenever. So like for me, I just want to have as many songs out to like have a life if possible, and I trust that some will have enough of a life to where we'll get to keep writing songs.
Totally. Now, I know you said you're not big on passion projects, but do you have any more plans to release any music under your own name?
I don't. No, I do not one bit. And I'm just writing songs here, and that's what I'm doing right now. So,
heck yeah. So I kind of like to end my interviews with kind of you giving advice to anyone that's wanting to be in your position, either as a songwriter or an artist, something that you might have learned on your path to where you are now.
Man, I fought. I'm smiling because it's like I hated when people said this to me, and I didn't do it for a long time, and then I finally did, and like it's the only way I've ever gotten better at writing songs. Reps. Write the songs, write the bad ones, write the decent ones, write the good ones, write the better than that last one, write all of them. It doesn't matter. You like, it's like the analogy for me is like the guy that's been in the gym for 10 years, like lifting the same weight over and over, like dude, like he's going to bench more than you. And like your job at the end of the day is to bench more than everyone else. So you got to have the same reps. You know what I mean? Like I like it's not a versus thing, because I want everyone to have success. I think there's more than enough success to have around. But at the end of the day, if you're looking at cutting one song and there's 10 songs for it, they don't care if, you know, it's just, they is anyone, but like you're going against the greats already. So it's like, you got to just go have that thing where it's like, I'm going to write enough songs to have written, you know what I mean? Like it's reps, it's building the muscle, and it's through that I've learned everything that I know about writing from writing with other people and trying and to take what I think they do that is good and make it my own, because it's what I've been exposed to. It's all what you expose yourself to. I would be in Nashville, I would be in LA, I would be somewhere, wherever the kind of music that you want to write, that's where they write it. I would try your best to be there, and then just try your best to write as many songs as you can. And that's all I want to do at this point. I just want to write as many songs as I can without, you know, not being able to write good songs because I've written too many songs, which I've gotten to that point. But write the songs, and like eventually you'll be like, wow, this one's really good and everyone else thinks so too. That's crazy. I never thought that would actually end up happening. Like, you know, that's totally. all it is. So I don't know. That was a long-winded one sentence of write the songs, but truly, that's all it's been for me.
Well, guys, there you have it. My conversation with Rocky Block. Rocky, thank you again so much for coming on the show. I had a great time talking with you today. Everyone go follow him on Instagram at Rocky Block. And make sure to come back next week to hear my conversation with Rocky's brother, Grady Block, songwriter and drummer for Ernest. I want to give a big shout out to TBD Coffee Co. for being the official coffee of Starting Small Music. Check them out at tbdcoffeeco.com. Follow Starting Small Music on Instagram at Starting Small Music, and let us know who you'd like to hear on the podcast next. And remember, everyone starts small.